Good morning. Makes more sense on here since there's no benefit of using Discord. Okay. Can you guys see this? So it's not a big deal if they didn't break during this time. It's just, it gives us lower odds of them like actually expanding this. So we do have better odds around like the 32. So this was the 32 flip, 36 through 38 window. These are usually better odds in general for the market. So them breaking 7-1 right here at 3-2 makes sense, but they had better odds of expanding if they had pushed this just a tiny bit earlier. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be like super early, but ideally before 2:30, because then they could have had those expansion scenarios. We're not gonna progress until we get the breaks of the 7-2 spot. But do you guys understand what I was trying to say here? It was mostly we didn't want to stall here. You see how here they stalled a little bit, but they didn't consolidate too much. Are you guys looking? Right, these were the areas that we didn't want to stall too long. So that was only a total of 24 minutes. Okay. Are you guys listening? This area in here, you can see that they stalled, and this was the longest that we stalled. This was fine to stall here for that long because this was like a primary support. I didn't label this off the 5-8 spot, but that would be a very important range too. So like off of here. Hold on, let me just fix this. Between basically 60 and that 5-8 range. Okay, so are you guys listening? Stalling in here is okay. Like this area had the highest odds of digesting the longest because it's the area that imposes the most risk in between here. Okay, that was like a total of like 50 minutes. So basically the timing is starting to decrease by half. Okay, are you guys listening? Until they finally broke range. So here this was about 50 to 51 minutes of digestion in this kind of box range here until they finally broke, right? This area in here digested only for not too long. I would say like 21 to 24 minutes until it finally broke this range. That took a total, same thing, probably close to like 51 minutes, 50 minutes. I don't know if you guys see that. Do you see it? At this pace here. Whereas now they're only ranging about like 25 minutes. Okay, so what do you think the goal would be? What do you guys think the goal is going to be now? Especially off these areas here. What do you think the goal is? This is why I wanted odds of them breaking right here. Think about it. What do you think the goal was right here? It's not that we don't still have time. Well, yeah, we want above 7-2, but I'm talking about time, not price. If they would have broken a little bit more right here, I would imagine that they would have had a much higher odd of like breaking in half the range, like 12 minutes, 13 minutes. Do you get what I'm saying? 15 minutes. Do you see what I'm saying right here? Had they broken at these times, 21, 22, 24, do you see it? Do you guys understand the concept here in terms of like a time interval or time range or whatever the way that you want to look at it as? It was basically, it would break and like out of this consolidation area in half the time and take out two ranges versus stalling here and then having odds of staying stuck between here and here. Does that make sense? So it's not that we don't have time. We do. This is like the 25-minute interval here. So they still broke here at 24, 25 minutes. They just haven't quite broken. So is Microsoft. So if we look up like 29-minute intervals, that'd be like right around now. Off the actual flip sticks from like 212, 210. They basically got until about 240, 241. The worst case scenario would be if they kept it stuck here. Remember how I said they could delay us for up to an hour? Not exactly an hour, but basically until 3. Okay, do you guys see this? That would be like the 50 to 51 minute stall. Okay, does that make sense? So this was like an odd right here off the 26 to 29 minute interval. And my early odds were that 210, 212, the 218 and 224 windows that stalled. Okay, so far this is implying that they probably want to delay this a little bit. Okay, is everyone on the same page? I don't want to get too distracted because it is a bit of a tougher trading session today. NQ held our exact spot. These were the ranges we talked about last night. This was basically a 44-point break here where they stalled. Kind of similar to ES stalling 8-1. I was thinking for this to get really big progressive price action, it probably has to break that 143 mark off lows, which is the same thing as breaking that 33-point break. So kind of like back to this supply area here, like right around here. I don't know if you guys see that. Okay. See if ES can get some progressive sticks here. I figured that if they decide to break within the 24 window, like let's say off a 24, 25 minute frame, like there could be some earlier odds. Okay, do you see that? Like off 212. These would be like the 29 minute odds around like 41. I just didn't want it to delay too long though. Google kind of just came back and stalled this range here. I know Microsoft didn't really look that great, but this was actually a really nice move off lows on Microsoft. Oh, I'm super dehydrated. MARA kind of struggled a little bit back here. Kind of, I wanted to see if it would make a bit of a cup and handle, but it stalled. So the only other potential setup that they could do on this now would be like a cup and handle break, I guess. Or not a cup and handle, sorry, like a double bottom or something like that. Maybe like with the higher low. It's not really super clean, but they definitely would have to start turning this back above that 1920 soon though. Tesla went right back to those calculated areas after stalling 479, 475. Do you guys see how ES is stuck? I need to make sure that you guys understood the concept of that period, because it is pretty important that you understand why it was important that they break during that time, because just it's basically to avoid us for stalling for an hour. And I noticed too that when they initially failed these areas back here, you know, off our 10:06 flip, this was like about 26 minutes. Okay, until they like fully broke structure and lows. If you notice there, it was on the 29, 30 minute mark. So that's kind of been a repetitive theme here this afternoon. I don't know if you guys see this. Do you see this? Look, lows. Almost every single stick here has been within a 26 to 29 minute interval off these high structures, low structures. Specifically within our frames back here at 1007, 1006. Okay, back in here. These sticks. These are more for like structural support. I think 26-minute interval would have been like right here where they probably held the line. Do you see this? I tested lows there and then held. It's kind of been a common theme. This is around the point where they started breaking structure a little bit too. So it's not that they're going to stall completely here, it's just that they'll probably double in time range. So probably higher odds that it's going to take. Yes, I said that this morning. Because we opened at 7.9. It's just I figured that if they stall during this period in time, they could delay this till 3, unfortunately. And like earlier this morning, when they stalled here, this is a big area though to stall. Like this is not really a spot that we want to stall. But let's just say like this period here, this is a major supply area in between here. And especially off our like 7.2. Basically our core areas like 6.8 to 7.2, right? Like this is a big spot. This is where we gave up 6.6 earlier and 6.7 and broke back into the means. So it's kind of the same thing where we really need to hold this. Basically they're holding just above 6.6. But just below 7.2. Does that make sense? The mean stops at 6.4. So the issue with this morning here is they broke the means. They broke it into the means. This usually implies volatility. Does that make sense? And then when they took out 6.3 and they couldn't retract back here, this is what brought it back to our 5.7, 5.8. Do you see what I'm saying? Which put us at major risk. Well, the conditions for overnight was that we try our best to hold 4744 or 6744. This, okay, to 5.2. Because they didn't do that overnight, they ended up doing it in real time. The goal was to hold above 3.8. So we want to be above 6738, but can afford risk between 6738 to 6744. Does that make sense? That's how I knew that we probably had a very good odd of holding there. Plus we also opened at 7.9. Like a 7.9 open is a really good open. Like this open right here, this is a really good core open off 9:30. And they tested 8.1. What they basically did too is they've left about, because we had room to 8.4, 8.6. They basically, hold on. I need to make sure you guys understand this. We had room to around 8.4 to 8.6, okay? This area here on upside, correct? Downside, we still technically had room down to like 3.8. Are you looking? Does that make sense? They left the same amount of range on downside that they did on upside. Okay, about 2.5 to 4 points. This is where the 3.6 might trigger, and that's what we wanted to ideally avoid. Does that make sense? These areas here, this was our upside from the report, 8.1, 8.4, 8.6. Okay. They left some room on upside. They also left a bit of room on downside. It's that simple. And they're kind of, this is like the median point in between. if you measure this from max upside risk to max reward, you're probably stuck at the 66% ratio. And you know what's crazy is I said it this morning that they're likely trading at a 66% ratio. I said it this morning at 6:45 this morning. Isn't that insane? And that's where they're stalling here. This is a 66% ratio here from the max upside reward to downside risk. Okay? If you kind of look at it based on this and where they actually stalled, you have to hold the 66 here to get that progress. Does that make sense? Let me just remove this fib. Hold on. Hold on. Let me know if this makes sense. So this is max downside risk to here, to where they're actually stalling, about here. Okay. Do you see that? Does that make sense? Someone reiterate that, because it is pretty important that you understand this concept. Whereas if we measure it off where they actually sustained, it should measure to our max reward, which is why they're stalling 7-1. We have to break a 66% ratio, okay? Market's trading in increments of thirds right now from a math perspective. And hence this area was really important that they sustained back here. And this is when they started feeling structure a little bit, brought it back down. Another way that you can think about this is this would also be the equivalent of breaking a 33-point range, right? But also getting a 44-point break right here. Isn't that cool? And this is how we could have some odds back to here, to like 8.5, 8.6. Let me know if that makes sense to you guys. I do want you guys to understand this like fully. 3.5 points probably makes the most sense around 85.50. These were also calculated areas from the report. This is also linked with 3.8. 3.8 is what we wanted to hold overnight. We didn't want to go any lower than 3.8. Ideally, we want to stay above that. So instead of doing it in overnight session, unfortunately, they did it in real time. Okay? That's all there is to this, is they did this in real time versus doing it overnight. If everyone's on the same page, then you should all be aware what max risk to reward is. What's your max risk? And kind of see like the 3-2 stalls. All of these should link to 3 p.m. when I manually measured it earlier, and now, and like just after 3:02, 3:03. Are we still at risk here? You think? Well, they really, really have to try holding that 6.6 to 6.4 range, because they haven't yet broken 7.2. That's kind of the battle that they're working with right now, is between 6.6 and 7.2. Odds are a lot higher just before and just after 3 of some structural breaks. So them breaking down right now is better than them breaking down at like 258 or 257 or so. So you definitely need some negation sticks here. Otherwise, this is going to be a huge risk for the 3 o'clock window. You probably have to get back at least back above like 6.9, like this 6.975 spot. I'm going to get some water. Just one sec. Well, actually, I realize I have water here. Do you see what I mean? Like, you're way better off having risk at like 5-1, 5-2, but you need to try retracing by like the 5-4, I'd say 5-4, 5-7 window. You don't want it to be too much beneath that. Bitcoin getting back to that 120K mark. I was looking to see if this one would test that 121.085 today. That's some good volume on that break here too. What were you guys saying before? Intel actually had some good sticks. I don't know if you guys were paying attention to it, but it broke that 37.16 and actually has odds of getting our 38.12. This one's still stuck right here. I don't know if this gets some late day breaks, but so far it's not progressing in comparison to the way Bitcoin's moving, which was the case yesterday too. ES kind of retraced back over 6.9 here and then stalled. I need to see these spots. 6.950. We need the 6.950, 6.975. That's the spot that they were struggling with a little bit earlier. But still some good holds off 6.6. Are you guys okay if I delete these just because we need to see? Yes. Yeah, this should be headed to the 129K mark. This was a structural break from the 26 off 113K. Usually when you get breaks like that, this kind of bar right here too, usually you'll get 4 days of continuation. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have some structural flips on the 5th and 6th for Bitcoin. So there should be odds of retesting highs as early as technically tomorrow. All right, let's see if they can retrace here at 57. This is pretty important. They get back over that 6.975 at this time of day because we want to try testing 6.771 to 6.772 by 3. The calculated points are like around 302. It might be 303 if I've miscalculated that, but I was pretty sure it was 302. MARA starting to get some movement here. This thing needs back over 1920. Google getting a nice break. So some nice breaks on Google this afternoon. No closing sticks above 6975 yet. That still keeps us at risk, guys. Between these two ranges here. NVIDIA has been really strong. Not just today, even yesterday. This one kind of surprised me off lows. Apple held its range really nicely today too. Went right back to our 258.20. Do you see this? Kind of, I think it stalled right at that spot at 17. XOM fully reversed off that 113.10 stall. It stalled at 9 or 08 or something like that. All right, what do you guys think? This is a pretty important time of day. These ES clear 6771, 6772 by 30. I'll just put 3:03 p.m. because I'm not sure if it was 02 or 03, but these were the calculated times here. Or it could clear back beneath 66. Like, those are the odds during this window. If you guys can vote on that. No? Set this to that. I'd say if it can get back over this 6950, 75. It has some decent odds. 6925 open at that 302 stick. I'm gonna delete them though because I just want to see what it does here. Okay. Because the worst case scenario could be that they stall us until like the 330 period. Google getting some nice structure breaks here. Tesla finally getting a structure break off that 301 stick. Google getting breaks through 245.50. Yes, stalling that 69.50 spot here, guys. This is a pretty important point to try at least testing at this point in time, because if they want to delay it, that's fine, but at least try testing these areas here. Crypto getting some nice moves. Google retesting that 245.61. That was the bigger overhead here on this one. just want to see if there's a minute delay here. Can someone document this? Minute delay on that break. This could imply maybe some potential volatility. And I think it makes sense because on this stick break, do you see this? This is more aligned with that 51-minute mark at 213 and 304. But I guess the good thing is this time the volatility was on the upside break versus downside, and they actually triggered that 6-9 spot. Do you see this? Like right here, 6975. You see here how they got stuck beneath this? I would say that that's probably progressive price action if someone can document that. Google getting some really nice breaks here. I'd imagine that Microsoft and Meta are doing the same. Do you guys understand this concept here? See that volatility stick on that 213 versus 212? This would be the similar type thing here at 304, 305. So a little bit delayed, which usually implies volatility, but this will give probably pretty good odds that they'll break the range here. Our points back here were 210, 212, 218, I think we said, which gives some odds for that 309 window and 312 window. So maybe some slight probabilities before 330. I think MARA is finally getting that break of that 05 spot. It just needs to break 12 and 20, and it has to do it in single sticks. And I think crypto's finally getting this move to 121. Intel is also getting a nice move here. So the max that you'd probably want to delay this period is maybe around the 324.25, just because this is still at risk until one end has to break, basically. Like, they definitely won't keep it stuck here. They either break beneath 6.6, right, or they break above 7.2. I don't think there's any in between here. Google was more constructive this morning, so I mean, this could recover by end of day. I'm not sure if it has enough momentum for a full turnaround, but I figured it could at least get back to like 246. There it is. These are the single sticks, guys, I was talking about with MARA. 1912 break. You want to see them take out 1920 this time in 3-2 without stalling. So you want to see single sticks through 3-2 and that 4-1 wall. Earlier we stalled our big overhead at 1978-79. I think they stalled at 1975. And we had that massive reduction stick here. Bitcoin getting super close to that 121 mark. I don't have all my levels on the chart, guys. Some of them got deleted, but these were the more important areas. And if you guys notice, once it finally nested properly above 120.43, do you see how much cleaner this PA was here? Do you guys see this? Like, look. This implied a direct move up from this range. 121.085 being tested here on Bitcoin. This should help the sector. ES still kind of battling these ranges here a little bit. MARA stalled at 1920 in reduced range. As soon as crypto stalled at 121.085 mark. The thing is the reductions it's giving are pretty steep. Like this is probably linked back to this 3.2 area here, especially if it had broken 20. No problem. Stream earlier though kind of messed me up a bit, so I didn't want to be on when market was moving the way it was moving. Gonna have to delete. I left these on here for you guys earlier because you said that they were helpful in terms of understanding like the areas that they could stall and consolidate in, but let's see if 212 can at least get back over the structure here. So what do you guys think? Do you think that they give us the breaks that we're looking for before 3:30, or do you think that they're going to delay this till 3:30? Because there's pretty high odds that they're maybe going to keep this stuck in these areas here. Remember what I said earlier, if they don't break during this period here, we could stay stuck for how long? Like it had to basically break before the 2:30 window, otherwise they could keep us stuck for up to an hour. Which is fine, but they basically have to sustain now the 6.4 to 6.6 range, which makes it a little bit trickier because it's such a tight box. This is the 3.2 stick, right? So those odds are closer to like 222 or 322, 324, 325. Google stalling a bit here off that 245.61. Yeah, we could maybe do that after the close. Crypto clearing this area here, guys. This is setting up for the all-time high retest. Still kind of funny that this stalled here, though. ES kind of just consolidating between that 6.8 and 70 mark. Still stuck in between. This is what I was worried about this afternoon, because they could basically keep it stuck like this for an hour. And this would still keep us at risk of maybe coming back to that 6.4 range. This looks literally the exact same as this 250.51. If the period is closer to, let's say, 221, 23, 24, then it's the same thing. You'd probably be better off breaking down now to retest this, but same sort of idea that we looked at earlier. I know the risk looks a lot higher now, but technically they haven't tagged 6.6 this time yet. So that could actually be more constructive, if that makes sense, but obviously there would be pressure for them to do the same thing that they did back here and retrace back over like 6.9, 6.975. The bigger risk here would be if they come back beneath 6.6, they'd, like I said, be back at risk of the means. If that was the case, then we could just end up getting stuck in this area this afternoon and consolidating. But this is still within, it's still within range. It's just the ranges are very, very, very tight, which makes it a little bit scarier to trade, I guess. You know what I mean? But let's say they hold the line here, they could try negating in like the next 2 minutes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. They'd really have to push back over 6.8 though. I'm gonna mute myself for a second, guys. This looks a little bit better than this window here. Do you guys agree? Because we had that little window back in here between 5.4, 5.7, just ahead of 3 and 301, 302. What are 3 things that look better here? So far anyway. They still have like 3 minutes to reverse this if they wanted to, but so far it's looking good. What are 3 things that look better here? Volume, okay. What else? Higher low, not lower low. Above 6.6. Third thing that looks better here. They actually retraced 6.8, right, versus stalling it right here. What's the final condition they need to make sure that this is more progressive this time? So you've already got 4 things. What's the final thing you need before these periods here for this to be progressive? And I'm basically giving you guys the answer. Because they did try here, but not quite on time. Right? Like they stalled a little bit. Where? Where do you have to break back to? And you can look at your 5.4, 5.7. Where do you have to close and break above? They couldn't quite do it back here. Not 6.9. 6.9's too low. Give me the exact number. No. No. Nope. 6.975. Do these look constructive to you guys at 6.975? Come on. Where is this constructive at 6.975? Nowhere. You need more constructive price action for the odds of taking out 6.975, 7.1, 7.2. You can start to see some of the volatility coming in on these sticks. This is the period, but I'm just going to delete them so I can see how they trade. Google, I think, getting some stick breaks here. See if it can get back over 246. The odds were around 2425. Do you guys see how this period here could have probably psyched some people out? Even just from like reading your guys' comments. The highest probability was around 330. At least they're back over 6.8 here, I guess. 6-9 close off that 2-5 stick. That's not bad. Oh, actually, I miscalculated this, guys. The 51-minute mark is... Oh, no, I didn't. I said 24:25, right? Why did I think it was 3:26? So this is a pretty important period here just to see how they trade around this 6-9 to 6-8 and 6-9-7-5. That's still a little bit shy. We've had a common trend today of having minute delays. So it's been a bit of the theme. So I wouldn't be surprised if they broke here at 2-6. The 6-9-7-5, there it is. See? 326 breaking that 69.75 spot here. Post-minute delay and volatility. This seems to be a common theme today. The highest odds for breaking this 7-2 range was close to the 330 mark. So that's the first structural, like, proper close around this 6-9-7-5 with 6-9 holds. Do you guys see the difference in candles here? This is a really solid candle above 6-9, 6-9 close, 6-9-7-5 open, 6-9-50 hold. Okay, so this is more of like a clear type of setup. We'll see if they can try testing that high range here by that 330, 332 window. It would also kind of align, I guess, with imbalance prints here too. What do you guys think? You think that they break range here for the 330, 332 window? This period had the highest odds for retesting here. What do you guys think? I'd say if they don't break during this period here, then the odds of us getting back to OR are super low. Retest 6, 7, 7, 1, 6, 7, 7, 2, 2, 5 during the... I'm only going to put 330 to 332, even though we have till 336, because that was a higher probability window. I'm only setting that poll to 1 minute, so if you guys can vote on that quickly, please. I always forget to pin this, and then Dougie's going to message me and yell at me. We'll see what kind of range breaks we can get on this one too for the 330 period. So far it's stalling. Let's get some more votes, guys. Those votes actually help us predict odds a little bit. They're still stalling this box here. Okay, I'm gonna just move them because I want to see how it trades. I'd say that the first negative here is that it didn't close above 6975 ahead of 330. That's already implying volatility. What was the poll? Majority voted yes. Okay. We didn't progress in price though, guys, at 329 or even 328. 328 didn't even take out that prior 327 high or any sort of structure breaks here. I'd say at the very least you wanted to retest that 70 mark before 330 to have an odd of getting a 7-2 break. Oops. So they're continuing to extend this. Intel got some really good structure breaks here. I noticed because my calls filled. These are really pinnable spots, so I mean, technically speaking, they could just kind of keep it between 6.3, 6.6, 6.8, 6.9. The only thing that's giving us an advantage is what? What's the one thing that's giving us an advantage? Don't get this wrong. That's another higher low here and retracement back to 6.9 off that 3.2 stick, keeping odds in play for that 3.6 to 3.8 window. What's one thing that's keeping our odds in play? This was the next window here. Just entirely for the session, what's the one thing that is keeping odds in play in general? No. I said it even when you're down here. And here. And here. And here. And here. I said it before we even broke down. What's the one thing that even kept odds in play today? Nope. Has nothing to do with it. You know what's funny? Every time I ask this question, no one ever gets it right. Every single time I ask this question, no one ever gets it right. Every single time I've ever asked this question, no one has ever gotten it right. I don't know why. Yeah, we had a really good open. that's the only reason that made this probable for one, to hold these ranges here, and two, to even get back above 6.6, 6.8, 6.9, and even give us even a slight probability of retesting OR. Yeah, that's true. Your open can help you determine your I feel like MARA is kind of shot for the rest of the session today, unless they get some like end of day sticks, because even with crypto moving back up here, it's still stuck. Bitcoin retesting this 121.085 mark. Well, if it doesn't do what though? Because it already tested our targets of 1952 and 1979, right? So, and I did say earlier, definitely take at least half off here, especially if they stall. Because I figured max range on the week for this one would be close to here if they break here. So if you want to carry your calls into tomorrow, that's up to you. Only one person voted on that. Yes, getting a reduction here off 336. That's the first break back beneath this 6.6 mark. Hence, it was a little bit better for odds if they had broken during these time frames here, because that keeps volatility on. $6.4 being retested for that 336, 338 window. This seemed pretty obvious after stalling that 6.9, 6.950, 6.975 off 332, 33. Even the 3.5 stick couldn't get back over 3.8. This is still within range though, so it's not the worst case scenario, but it definitely limits odds of getting full range on the session this afternoon. See if they can try to negate this risk here. Is this helping you guys understand this trade? Like, these are definitely the ranges. And we already knew that if they didn't break during that early period, that they could kind of keep this stuck in between these areas here, which I know sucks, but sometimes that's just how it goes. $6.6 retracement here off that 338 stick. For this thing to really try saving face and holding range above 6.3, 6.4, it really has to try sustaining and retracing 6.6, 6.8, 6.9, probably within like the next 3 to 4 minutes before the final 15-minute interval occurs. What do you guys think? Do they hold the line here? They're gonna hold the line at 6.4. They definitely have to get back over like 6.8, 6.9. Probably no later than like the 344, 45 window to even give an odd of retesting by end of day. They are, but they're to a calculated spot. If they extend the downside, then we're back at risk of 5.8, 5.7, basically back to like where the previous all-time high range was, and that's what would make the session pinnable into the close. You can start seeing some reductions in range happening here. Look at Google stick here. It's a massive stick break on Google. I wonder what that's about. Was there news on that stick, guys? Does anyone know? What's the news? Do you know? Thank you so much. Long-term deal across YouTube. Oh, so that's good news. Maybe they brought it down before trying to maybe push this. I don't know. Some important marks here, guys. I want to see if they can try retracting back before 350, like by that 348, 345 window. Where do you guys think they're going to pin the close? Google getting a bit of a flag break here off that news. Six 375 hold. That was my support beneath 6.6. Looking to see if they can get back above 6668 for that 345, 348 window. Otherwise, ES obviously stays at some risk here into the close. Crypto still in our spot. What do you guys think? Sorry guys, I just want to focus a little bit because I had picked up Google. ES basically just stalled ahead of the flips here and brought it back to that bottom of the mid means around 6.2, 6.3. Honestly, this is kind of just stuck in these ranges here unless they want to push final minute back above 6.8, 6.9. Anything above 6.8, 6.9 would be a good close. MARA kind of just stalled here. This definitely needs at least above, I would say, the 1888, 1905 mark to reset. We'll see what kind of end of day sticks we get here. It's definitely a little bit of a harder session, so don't feel discouraged or anything like that. Them stalling at 6.2 was pretty obvious that they weren't going to give us the breaks that we were looking for. Okay. Everyone's on the same page. There's the 246 break on Google. This is the exact spot that I thought that they could break this to into the close. What time is it? We've got a minute. Nice trade on Google into the close. Right back to where we wanted it to, like back over that 246. ES, like I said, I feel like they could probably push back over 6.6. 6.8 would be nice. I'm not sure if they have enough time to do that, but that's what I figured they could do if they want to stabilize this a little bit. So maybe like a 6.8 retest here on ES. They basically just reduced range and stalled the means. So honestly, that's just what it comes down to. MARA just, you guys, it stalled our target ranges. So it's just recycling the same ranges we were looking at. Like nothing really changes. 1857, 1888. Yeah, and yeah, for session close. Like this 1877, 79, that's not really constructive. Like this doesn't really do anything in terms of price, right? Like whether or not you want to hold that is obviously up to you. Google getting some really big stick breaks here after the bell on Google. I did hold a little bit of this, not much, because I knew that the risk was kind of high. Yeah, but that was kind of expected based on what they did during those periods. And of course, they'll bring it back to 6.8 here into the close. At least we knew the ranges that we were working with. They didn't really take it too much lower than like the 6.3, 6.2 area. Protected off 60 and 5.8. Basically, you can think of this as mid-range. So they stalled. They stalled about 2 points here, meaning they had risk of taking it about 2 points beneath here, beneath that 6.4. The area is like 7.2 area, like right around here maybe. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you guys understand this concept? So stalling beneath 7.2 gave them room to afford risk beneath 6.4, not much, like 1 to 2 points, which is what happens usually when you stay stuck. So now they're kind of bringing it back to the midpoint here, back over 6.6, 6.8. That 6.975 is still the overhead. They could still take this to opening range by session close, but I think the bigger overhead here now is going to be that 7.2 to 7.4 range. Google getting some really nice breaks here after the bell. This one looked really solid this morning. I know it had that reversal, but it still had a pretty good setup. Back to 247. I held a few contracts of this one that I'm going to hold into tomorrow. NQ still needs to get back above this area here. Apple kind of just stalled. Microsoft I didn't really see. Microsoft sold off a bit into the close. Google though was a really solid one into the close. I don't know if anyone traded that one with me. I didn't really trade much this afternoon except for this one. Just looked like, the way it was trading looked like they were gonna have news or something. Whoever was asking about Tesla earlier, these are basically the 33-point extensions here on this one. So it basically retracted its full range. Like, do you see this? At the very least, you would have wanted this to try sustaining above, like, 438. Because it did go a little bit higher than the calculated range. 435.11. Who was asking about this one earlier? So these are really, really big spots for this one to hold, like this 432 to 435 area, because it did retract most of its move. Even though crypto stalled, this still ended up hitting our target today, literally almost to the exact penny on Bitcoin. Anything else you guys want me to look at before I sign off? Intel was also really solid into the close, guys. I don't know if you guys saw how that one was moving, but it was really solid into the close. BMNR. That's a nice setup. Maybe stuck a little bit on like these time frames, but I don't know if you can see that, but probably has to clear that 56.29. That's usually where price on this one gets constructive. What's the float on this one? This thing trades like crazy ranges. So these are its annual ranges. So let's see. wow. Do you see that? So from like its support on annual range, like from here to here, basically, are you paying attention? Do you see this? Essentially from here. I guess you could measure from here too if you want. Do you see how that's the open closing ratios here of like this bar? That's a calculated range right there, like where they stalled it. If you're measuring off maybe here to here, this would be a calculated midpoint from like this. That would make sense. This is probably why they stalled this area here. And then I think the full range on this is probably here. Do you see that? Isn't that crazy? So that's the full range off like these annual spots. Do you see this? From that 798, whatever that is, to 9510. You can like give or take. I would bet if you extend this all the way through like to here, the 95 point range, that's probably the overhead that's like right around that 168. So where this stalled was, I would say that that's pretty calculated. But you'll get better structure breaks when you properly clear these areas here. So like you see this 5632, that's a really good close. That's a proper, like you see this is a cleared trade because it gapped above, right? But then stalled that 73.43. So what you have to basically do is close here to get an odd of retesting here to have better clearance breaks of these areas here, because that's what would get you the potential break of this. All you really have to do to retest all-time highs though is break that 95.60. 95.60 is linked with this and this. In terms of timing, I'm not sure. Maybe check and see what kind of structures they have on the shorter frames. Maybe like a, I don't know, looks like a, probably like just over a month, like 37 to 40 days. Maybe see when these structures flip over. This flips on the 21st. When do they have earnings? 41 days, actually a nice looking flag setup, and this flips on the 28th, which is the day ahead of their earnings. And that would make sense based on this. Do you see that? Where it cleared, it was on the 39 to 42 day mark. Do you see that? That's the last time it cleared, so you could use like a 41, 42 day chart. And that's probably linked with their earnings. 42 day, probably a nice flag. That's what the 41 day is linked with the 28th. I know that's like a weird way of looking at this, but, and then like these range highs would be like maybe like off 44, 45 days on some extensions if you wanted to. I'd use this though. This is a really nice time frame. And then August 29th. So maybe like manually measure this. You see like the last time they cleared. That's actually really cool, isn't it? Like look, if you measure like the 39 to 40 day bars, these were the last time that they also cleared this area here. Right here. So that's probably your window. And that likely extends you till their earnings date. Like if you're looking at 41 days, the 28th, to the dates that it cleared, the 29th. Do you see what I'm saying? This is where volatility could occur through the 30th. And then this is likely your, let's see, because the earliest range break would be like the 24th. So like 15 bars. Like here, maybe 20 to 21 days. You could probably watch for like this period here as being like your midpoint for maybe the earliest time frame to break these areas by. Like here, maybe. Well, in terms of like time and price. Okay, guys, I'm gonna sign off. I'm pretty tired. Today was a long session.